Have a Seat in My Chair with Brittany Nicole. This show is about unlocking the vault on all things hair, from texture, lifestyle, and the psychological effects that we go through from day to day dealing with our hair. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hello. Welcome back to episode 3 with Have a Seat in My Chair with Brittany Nicole. How are you guys doing today? I hope well. The first person that I want to shout out today is Nikki Nelms. She is a celebrity hairstylist, but she has a super interesting story. She dropped out of college to pursue her career, and I really admire I think her fearlessness in her story. Like, her first client was Lil Wayne. She's seen him at the Essence Festival and basically ran into him at a bar and was like, when's your next video and who's doing the hair? And just by putting herself out there, he ends up calling her the next day, and bam, she has a celebrity client. And I mean, just from that moment, I think her story just super evolved. Now she does magazines, she does salons, she does Zoe Kravitz, Janelle Monáe, and she has a really cool aesthetic. She puts lots of beads and like just little trinkets in hair and really creates like an artistic aesthetic for her clients. And I just think it's super cool when you can build up enough trust with clients, as well as, I imagine, agencies and, you know, all these other companies that come to you just for this specific thing that you like to do. I also was watching one of her interviews, and she was just like, you know, I stay in my lane. Like, I do what I'm good at. I don't try to like force things. And I thought about kind of like myself. There are certain things I will not do in the salon. And I was like, but I think it creates kind of like a niche, and then you get really, really good at whatever you're doing. So shout out to her. She inspired me. I think if you have time to look her up, she could inspire you too. Excuse me. She could inspire you too. And, you know, I just always like how sometimes people who just kind of seem like super aspirational to you, sometimes you feel like you don't have anything in common with those people, but sometimes there are a lot of parallels you end up seeing with your story and their story, or somebody famous, or just anybody that you kind of look up to. A lot of times when you hear about their journey, you're like, oh, that's kind of like me too. Like, you know, so I think it's kind of cool. So again, shout out to her. Now, I want to talk about another trend that I've been noticing. It's super, super cute, but it's kind of scary to me a little bit about the aftermath that could come from this. So one of the styles I've been seeing are singles, like micro singles that are like past your waist, past your butt, and like down to your knees. I think it's very, very cute. If you want to make a statement, like, that's amazing for you. But if you are somebody who is planning on having hair on their edges and the perimeter of their head, I think that you should strongly consider maybe choosing something a little less heavy. I think that's the thing with trends too. Like, we see people online do it, and then we want to do it. And a lot of times people are now wearing like wig braids. So they can like pop that on and off their head. But the weight to the, I guess, the weight of the braid versus the section the braid is in is exponentially heavier than what your hair can handle majority of the time. I know we want the styles and everything, and that's fine. I'm not trying to be a hater. But when it comes time to come out of that style and you want to go to your hairstylist and get maybe a bob or anything, and she's like, well, ma'am, where did your hair go? And you're like, well, I had like some 15-pound braids on my head, so now your scalp is probably sore. I know you lost some hair. You probably didn't take the braids out properly, which I will talk about another day. And I just think, like, you know, do what you want, but don't be super shocked about the aftermath when you take this stuff out of your head. Like, it's just like when I go to work sometimes and the shock on people's faces are just stunning. Like, they're like, I don't understand. I didn't do anything. And I'm like, well, you put freaking a baby on your head and you've been pulling it up, wearing buns, getting it wet in the ocean. By the way, if you get braids wet, they are so freaking heavy. I have braids right now and I have like the largest sections ever because I already know that if they were, when I had them smaller, they were pulling on my edges. And I don't care what anybody says. They can be painful. And what's even more funny is when people leave these heavy braids in their hair and then go right back and do it again and again. And then they turn like 60 something. And then they're like, oh, Brittany, how are we going to get my edges back? I'm like, they not coming back. You kicked them to the curb when you was in Mexico and Jamaica. And when you didn't want to comb your hair and take care of it back when you were young, you knew that those braids was hurting. And you were like, I don't care because I want this look and I want to look however, forever. But it's not real. And one day, all these things we're doing, which I'm not hating on if it's in moderation, but the other side is very sad. And you do not want to be one of these people rubbing on just the scalp late at night when you're lonely, because it's got to be sad. So that's that on that. So I want to talk about what exactly is a silk press. I get this question all the time. And technically, let me tell you what a silk press is. I might get a little bit of pushback on this, but like technically a silk press is after you shampoo and blow dry, you go through the hair with a pressing comb, and then you go through after each section and flat iron over what you pressed. Or you can do it together, like press the roots and then flat iron the bottom, or quote unquote silk the bottom, but you need a flat iron regardless to do it. If you do just use a pressing comb, it's gonna be super hot, and I'm guaranteeing you're gonna have a whole bunch of heat damage, especially if it's like the old school pressing combs where you have to put it in the stove and there's no temperature gauge and stuff like that. But the way that I like to look at a silk press is if I can get your hair straight with the least amount of heat possible and it looks like a silk press without technically having to do the traditional way of a silk press, to me, that's a silk press. Like, if it looks silky and it's bouncing and moving and shiny and it lasts for a week or two, like, you gotta silk press in my book. Some people want to argue you down. I seen this one lady on Instagram. She's like, no, a silk press is when you take the pressing comb and you have to go through all of the roots with the pressing comb, and then you have to go in and silk it out with a flat iron. And I'm like, okay, granny, you're right, technically, but I'm not gonna damage somebody's hair for the sake of being a traditionalist. If I can get you the same effect and like knock out some of these steps that are probably going to be damaging your hair, that's what I'm going to do. That's what me and my ladies are going to do. Okay. We're saving curl patterns over here. And also too, like, a lot of your silk press really doesn't have anything to do with the way you do it. A lot of the results start at the shampoo bowl, and then the conditioner and the detangling and the trim and the blow dry, which to me is the number one thing that has to be right to give you the best silk press possible. Because if you get that blow dry right and you start seeing the shine come through the hair before you even put a flat iron on there, you're going to have a good silk press. I think a lot of people really need to open their mind a little bit and start really being like, visually, am I getting what I want? Am I getting what I see on this photo? Like, is that happening to me? Versus some hairstylists are just so robotic and so, I guess, traditional in the steps or this and that they treat every hair the same, and then they can't read between the lines on like who needs this, who doesn't need that. Maybe this person's hair can be flat iron on 400 or 425, not 450 and not 500 passes. The passes to me is just kind of like unnecessary. And when I say unnecessary, it's because usually the blow dry is bad. If you have a really good blow dry, you can probably get like one pass. I usually do one pass through the whole entire head and then just styling after. But if you are flat ironing someone's hair multiple times on one section, probably on 450 because the blow dry was bad, then you go in and curl it. How many times has the heat been on that section of hair? Probably like at least 3 or 4 times. And then you guys want to wonder like why you don't have a curl pattern and why is my hair just straight and why does it look like I have a relaxer and I just want my curls and blah, 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 blah. That's another thing too, really fast. People who get their hair done every 2 weeks, and you don't have good heat control management, please don't get up here and complain and be like, why do I need to trim all the time? Or why doesn't my hair curl up and this and that? Like, let's not be stupid. Like, we know that heat cooks things and your hair is getting cooked. Okay? Like, I know we want to be fresh every morning or whatever. Like, it's one thing for you to go in the salon and maybe that hairstylist isn't that up to par when it comes to healthy hair, but it's another thing to go home and keep curling your hair every single day because you gotta go to work in the morning and you gotta look nice. How about we learn proper ways to take care of our hair at night via roller set, pin curls, silk scarves, satin pillowcases, turn on maybe a couple of fans at night, like, you know what I mean? Maybe you need like two separate situations, something to lay the edges down if you sweat at night, and then another way to maintain the curls on the ends, or something. Like, be more creative, because you're not going to want your hair to be breaking off and all this heat damage, because the luxury about having textured hair is that we can be curly and we can be straight versus just being stuck. But what's sad to me is when people just blow their hair out to smithereens and then it's just stuck like, whoa, well, what do I do now? And a lot of y'all don't really want the consequences of your actions today. Okay? You guys cannot handle the truth, and I'm here to tell the truth. So be ready, because I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give it to you straight. Still do what you want or whatever. We know there's wigs and weaves waiting on everybody, hand and foot. Can't wait to get on your head. But what I've learned at the end of the day, everybody wants their real hair. Everybody wants to be able to take that off and look in the mirror and be like, self, hello, and I'm glad I got hair on my head, versus just, I mean, when you see how crazy people are and sad and all the excuses they make and trying to get hair back on their head, when it's self-inflicted is the worst part. Stuff you can't control, like male pattern baldness, and, you know, maybe if you're on medication or it's hereditary, that's one thing that I am not talking to you. But the people that I know are just self-inflicting hair trauma on themselves, it's ridiculous. And especially to complain about it to a stylist who told you to stop. It's like, you should get fired for that. Like, do what you want, but like, we're not miracle workers in that way where we can just like grow back something from like dead, dried up follicles. It's like, help us help you. You know, like, let's align together and come up with a plan of something that is achievable and that you can agree on and work with your stylist for to maybe get you where you want to be without compromising your hair so much. So that's my thoughts on that. So visually, just to swing it back around, if your hair is silky and bouncy and your roots are straight and your hair is shiny, to me, that is a silk press. If you go from curly to straight and you don't have to burn up your hair, I mean, like, let's normalize getting the results, but in a healthy way, instead of just getting the results. That's another thing. Like, yeah, I can get you straight, but if I can't do it in the best, healthiest way, maybe we should just stop normalizing doing bad hair. Like, let's try to find better ways to help our clients achieve what they want, instead of just like, okay, let me get this Babyliss, this titanium, and I'm gonna go through this hair 100 times because I was too lazy to prepare the hair properly and to section it out, put heat protectants, leave-in conditioners, blow it out right, not have it be all tangled up. I'm gonna give this lady a proper trim on the perimeter and interior of her hair, and it's not just the bottom. Like, go inside and get those ends trimmed and do things like that, because that's what's going to give you the results. Like, people want their hair on their head. I don't know how many times like I can say that, but that's going to be the important thing. Like, if you can find a stylist, or you can be that stylist that's saving hair and not killing hair, you're going to have a lot of money, because there's a whole lot of hairstylists out here. There's a whole lot of stylists out here that do not care about your hair. They care about getting you the result, but they don't care how they get to it. They don't have a plan. They just are going to rush through it and still take 1,000 years. I want you guys to look for people with technique and a plan. Someone who's like, I know what I'm doing, I'm confident, and can customize what they need to do for you, versus this is how I do on everybody. Okay? That is my spiel for episode 3. I want to leave with a quote. This quote is by Myleik Till. She said, "The most important thing to know is what the limit of your knowledge is." The most important thing to know is what the limit of your knowledge is. Because, I mean, that quote is just so deep to me, because we think we're so smart all the time. But really, it's like, know just what you know, and then leave that as a baseline to get to know some more stuff, right? So there are 1,500 different ways to do one thing, and I think that quote was like super fitting for our discussion today, because just like when it comes to silk presses, there are 1,000 ways to do it, but which is the one that is going to work for you and your clients to still yield healthy, amazing hair? I don't know, just something to think about. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for stopping by. Please remember to like and subscribe. Email me at yourwelcometosit@gmail.com. Reach out to me on my Instagram. I should be dropping YouTube soon, so stay tuned, and stay tuned for everything coming. I mean, I'm starting at the bottom right here, but there will be more. We'll get better, and it will be greater later. Thank you very much, and have a great day.